Hi, this is Joel Johnson. Welcome back to the Johnson Brunetti YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about healthy aging. Before we get started though, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so and click on the bell because then you will get notified every time we upload a new video. Our goal with these videos is to educate you and also motivate you so that you have a better financial future. And again, today we're talking about healthy aging. What is healthy aging? And as a financial planner, I think a lot of people, when I start talking about aging, a lot of people think I'm going to go right to the money part of financial planning or the money part of aging. I'm not going to do that today. We're going to touch on some of the financial things, but I'm also going to include some of the research that we have seen lately, and I'm sure you're aware of, that talks a lot about the importance as we get older of some other components of healthy aging. So let's talk about the fact that healthy aging is about a lot more than just financial. It's really about the physical and emotional well-being of us. You know, I look back at my grandparents and they didn't eat well, they never exercised, but they had a really important component that I'm going to talk about in a minute that kept them very healthy. But let's talk about exercise and nutrition for just a moment. We're so much better educated now than we used to be about the importance of exercise and nutrition. And I think one of the things that's keeping us alive a lot longer and why our life expectancy is much greater than our parents' life expectancy for the most part, for most of us, is because we know so much more about nutrition. We know about the foods that are bad for us and the foods that are good for us. And if you haven't studied nutrition or learned a little bit or talked to somebody that knows about nutrition, I would suggest you do that because not only will it help you from a longevity standpoint, but it'll just help keep you a lot sharper and so on. Exercise. We have silver sneakers programs at the gym now. Why do I know that? Because apparently I'm eligible for silver sneakers at my age. But most of us through our insurance policies, whether it's Medicare or whether we're still working, have the opportunity to go to a gym and get either a huge discount at a gym or have our insurance company completely pay for a gym membership. I personally use a personal trainer and I work out with a lot of other people that use a personal trainer that are much older than I am. So again, exercise and nutrition, huge components for healthy aging. And then of course we have connection. Connection is so critical. As a matter of fact, research shows now that this may be more important than nutrition and exercise. It's having that connection. Loneliness can have a huge negative impact on us as we get older. That's why many times we have one spouse pass away and the other spouse goes downhill very quickly. That happened with my mom and dad. When my dad passed, it took my mom 15 months before she passed away after that. She went downhill very quickly because of that loneliness. So connection is so important. That's why we see community organizations, community centers. We see seniors going on trips with other people in their age group, whether it's to the casino or on a vacation. We see people taking cruises, and we see a lot of involvement in synagogues, churches, communities like that that are outwardly focused, that are serving other people because that connection is so critical. And again, some of the research shows that this connection for healthy aging might even be more important than nutrition or exercise, even though we don't want to minimize some of those things. One of the things I would suggest before we get into the financial part of it, which we will get into, is the Mayo Clinic up in Minnesota has various resources you can go on and you can actually sign up for their newsletter. Wendy and I get their newsletter every month and it's got all kinds of tips. And of course, it's got tips on healthy aging and Alzheimer's and cognitive decline and things like that. Let's move on to the money part of healthy aging for just a moment. Let's talk about financial healthy aging. We've talked about some of the other things that go into healthy aging, but obviously our finances have to be part of this. And it's so important to have a financial plan early in your aging process. I think in your late 50s and 60s, you ought to have a financial plan because what happens is as you get older, decisions become more overwhelming. And if you're not on track and you get into your 70s and you start getting financial advice or you have somebody tell you, hey, you're not on track, you need to make changes, many times those changes are very overwhelming at that age. And if one spouse passes, many times the surviving spouse just leaves everything the way it is. We have a lot of engineers for clients, very smart, really on top of their finances. We do financial plans for them that are rather detailed because they like a lot of detail, as you can imagine. And one of the things that we hear all the time is, I want to make sure you're here to take care of my spouse if I pass first, because my spouse is not going to be able to make the type of decisions that I make. So it's important these financial plans get put in place early, and that you have a plan if you do have a partner or a spouse, that spouse is taken care of. Because many times, again, that spouse that outlives, just like my mom did, isn't used to making those big financial decisions. And the danger is that they'll just leave everything the way it is, and they might be setting themselves up for some real problems when it comes to their finances. But let's talk about some of the things we need to consider when we talk about our finances in the context of healthy aging. We should set aside some money for medical expenses. There's statistics out there that say somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 will be spent by the average couple throughout their years past age 65 to passing away on different medical expenses. Even if you have medical insurance, it might be deductibles. It might be going to see experts in certain fields that your insurance company won't pay for, and so on. So we've got to set aside some money for medical expenses. How about setting aside money for activities? Again, we talked a little bit about that importance of connection a little earlier. Activities might be going on travel trips, going to Europe, but going with a group, maybe going on a cruise. Some people love cruises, some people hate cruises, but things like that where you're around a lot of other people that may be your peers. So maybe you want to set aside money in your budget or even a reserve fund that you can spend down. Also, I would encourage you to do those things now. Do them earlier, right when you retire. Because when you get into your 70s and early 80s, you might not be able to do all that traveling. You might begin having some issues with walking or moving around a lot, or just traveling, period, on an airplane or something where you can't do some of those things. So my mom and dad started to travel right away when my father retired and did a lot of traveling the first 7 or 8 years. And then my mother became unable to travel as much as they really wanted to. So spend that money early on activities. One of the things we have to do in our financial planning business when clients come in and they transfer into retirement is they've been in that mode of saving money for so long. We have to get them to spend money. Sometimes those good habits while we're working of saving money translate into not spending any money on yourselves when you get into retirement. So we tell folks you can afford to have somebody come over and do your lawn and do your bushes and do landscaping. You can afford to have different activities that maybe you wanted to do all the time. Maybe a cleaning person comes into your house. Maybe you have somebody come in and clean out that attic, but you pay somebody else to do those things. So take a look at that. Listen to a financial advisor if they're giving you advice on that thing, because again, sometimes it's hard to make that transition to having a better lifestyle because you've earned that better lifestyle, because sometimes we've been so used to saving money and being frugal or responsible. I'll let you decide on what word there. Hopefully not cheap, but frugal or responsible. We've done that for so long that it's hard to transition into spending money on ourselves. So now let's get to the financial piece, or the financial planning piece of healthy aging. It's so important that we have a financial plan, as I mentioned earlier. Have a financial plan that covers an income plan, a retirement income plan, or a projection. Will you run out of money before you pass away? What rate of return do you need on your investments before you pass away? What sources of guaranteed income? Do you have inflation protection? All of that needs to be part of a good financial plan. And then prepare for unexpected issues that might come up. They will come up. If you've gone through life at all, and if you're watching this in your 50s and 60s, you know that unexpected things come up, and sometimes those things can be categorized as crises. It might be the loss of a loved one. It might mean maybe one of your kids passes away. It might mean a divorce where you have to step in financially. There needs to be some flexibility in your plan to go ahead and meet those changes. Now, I will say this though, and this is so critical. Make sure you're taken care of financially first before you help somebody else out. I know that sounds selfish, but we have seen a lot of clients where they go a little overboard helping out kids or grandkids, and then they end up impoverishing themselves in retirement. You don't want to live with your kids. Okay? Believe me, you don't want to live with your kids. I won't make a comment about if they want you to live with them, but you probably don't want to live with your kids, or if you do, it needs to be a special arrangement. And many times, people have to end up living with their kids or relying on the kids because they gave too much money away. So be careful of that. But be ready for crises to come in your family, and that might mean children, grandchildren, somebody needs a helping hand. Also, obviously, unexpected things like the death of your spouse, unfortunately. Somebody's going to outlive the other person if you have a spouse or a partner. You've got to plan for that. Any kind of disabilities, any kind of inability to travel. Maybe you need to put a ramp on your home, in the back or in the front so that a wheelchair can get up that ramp, or even a person can walk up that ramp that can't quite do stairs. Unfortunately, these things will happen, and finances and proper financial planning will not necessarily take away the problem, but they will make the problem easier to deal with. So what have we been talking about today? We've been talking about healthy aging that consists of nutrition. It consists of exercise. It consists of connection. Probably one of the most important things we have is connection with other people. That's why people want to be near their families or near their friends and so on. Just as a little sidebar here, Wendy and I a few times have been talking about moving just 30 miles down the road to a place that might be more desirable for us to live in our retirement years, but the thing keeping us in our neighborhood is our friends. All the friends are there in the neighborhood, and we don't want to be, even though 30 miles isn't very far, we don't want to be that far away from them. So that connection, as you can see, is really, really important. And then financial goals or financial things to address in healthy aging, they have to tie together, right? Finance and other lifestyle choices have to tie together. So thank you for watching this segment on healthy aging. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. We've got a lot of comments on these topics, so we want to deliver these to you in a concise way. Continuing on, so make sure that you subscribe to the channel and click on the bell. And thanks again for watching.